Hello everybody, this is Christian back from Blue vs. Orange TCG, bringing you a deck profile on the first place deck from the last one-day event that happened about a week ago now. It was the first event featuring ATP's new Classic format. And for those that don't know what the Classic format is, it's essentially a scaled-down Type 1 format to where you'd have no Type Masters, you don't have Legend Mode characters that are legal to play, and then it's an extended ban list. So things like Ice Function, Opportune Offensive, Never Give Up, Heed the Call, and Rally were all added to the current T1 ban list to make this Classic format. And we have Jason here, who ended up taking down the whole event with Bugs. How about that? I haven't seen those guys in a while. How did it feel winning the event, Jason?
It felt amazing. It was quite the rush.
I bet. You've been grinding games for a while now. You joined the Discord like October, November or so, like right when ATP 5 dropped. And you've been grinding games, you've been learning, and you clearly knew where to apply it all, right? You know, congratulations on taking it down. What made you decide to go with Bugs for the tournament?
Well, I've been slowly working my way through the different, I believe you guys call them tribes.
Yep.
I played a lot with Wreckers, Dinobots, and I've kind of working my way through all of them. I just like the cohesion and the lore aspect of them. Like in the cartoon, they were a team.
Yeah.
And I was actually going to play Wreckers for the Classic tournament. I started out with Double Impactor Wheeljack. And then I was like, well, I'll try some more. So I tried Whirl, Bulkhead, and Captain Impactor. And I had a lot of success with that team, but then I kept playing Mad over and over, and it was like any time that Whirl got taken out of that team, I couldn't finish the game. So I was like, well, I plan on playing Bugs and Seekers, so I'll just throw some Bugs together. And Smurf actually shared his deck from many months ago. I believe he ran T1 and he got top 8'd with them.
Yep. Yeah,
and I kind of use that as my primer. A lot's changed since then because, you know, you can't use I Still Function. You can't use, I mean, it's a newer card, but you can't use Never Give Up.
Yeah, that's essentially a bug.
No belligerence, no hostilities.
Yeah, and like especially Never Give Up is like a card that like it has bug support. It's a white and orange bug icon, so like that's like a really strong start card to have. But you still, you know, went in there without it, and you still did pretty well with it, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Well, why don't we jump into the deck profile? What characters did you run for Bugs? Because there's a few different types of Bugs that you can run with a team. I see you have 4 here.
Yes, so I went 4 wide. Smurf kind of broke down with me how to, you know, which characters to choose for the 4 wide and kind of how you go through it. So I have 6-star Chop Shop, 6-star Venom, which is an ATP card, 5-star Kickback, and 8-star Ransack, which is also an ATP card.
Yeah, and one of the things that the ATP Ransack especially like does for like the team, right, is he gives you extra star cards for playing more Bugs. So like all like the bug effects on this team, except for I think Chop Shop for the most part, like interact with having more Bugs on your team. Is that kind of like correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, awesome.
I also wanted to add, I think one thing that sealed the deal for me to play these guys is I remember asking in chat if there were any ATP 5 character cards that weren't played. And I think somebody brought up 2, but one of them had actually been played, like Battlefield Shockwave had been played in Primus. But I think somebody said Venom hadn't been played. So I felt like I wanted to sort of do the team justice and making sure that card was played.
I can appreciate that. You know, ATP 5 was a pretty big set, so it makes sense to like with the limited time frame that we have, like sometimes like not all characters we get like the spotlight in tournaments that they may deserve. And obviously you saw that with Venom. And how good was Venom like the whole day for you as a character?
Venom, so I guess I'll just go through sort of the pre first wheel mindset of the game,
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
is typically you're gonna flip Venom to start with, and he's gonna give you one extra battle card when you battle for your Insecticons. So whether you're defending or attacking, you're flipping 3, unless the other team has Gyro Blaster.
Mm-hmm.
Chop Shop's a 4. He goes in. You're flipping 3 cards. So you get 3 oranges. 7's a pretty fair hit the first part of the game because it's going to be hard for people to defend much. And then from there, you would flip Kickback. And so here's one of your big decisions early in the game is, do I go in with Venom or do I go in with Kickback? Because the strengths of these two characters, the strength of Venom is in bot mode, he allows you to flip another card on offense or defense. And late in the game, if you flip him, you get a swarm ability where you reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. And then if they're orange, your opponent takes a damage each time. Or if it's blue, you get to repair. Kickback, in bot mode, it says when this is attacking, flip 2 more battle cards for each other Insecticon you begin the game with. So you're flipping 2 to attack, 2 for each other Insecticon, so that's 8, and then 1 more for Venom, that's 9. Now he does have 0 attack, but if you flip 9 oranges, basically his base is 9, which is pretty incredible.
It's hard to beat.
He's essentially, go ahead.
It's hard to beat. No action, no upgrade. I'll still swing for 9. That's still like pretty good.
Yes. He's sort of the glass cannon of the group because you either play almost all orange or mostly orange, so he's easily one-shottable. If you're facing an orange team, you're going in thinking, well, I'm probably only going to get 1 hit with him, so I better make it count.
Sure, makes sense.
And then the guy that you want to save for the last, this card is so amazing. Like you said, in alt mode, you get to play basically with this lineup for each other Insecticon. You get a star card, so you get 3 star cards. Mm-hmm. When you flip them to bot mode, it says when this attacks, flip 1 more battle card for each other Insecticon on your starting team. So Venom gives you an extra, and then you get an extra 3. So that's 4, and then plus the 2 that you flip normally, so you get 6. So if all those are oranges, you're hitting for 10 without an upgrade.
That's really strong. That's really, really strong. And then all orange deck, especially with the 3 star cards. And we're gonna get into your battle deck here in a second. Like, assuming you played like more double oranges, you're a rare deck for an orange deck where you have like 6 cards that have double oranges pips on them. So you end up swinging for sometimes more than that, just by virtue of the variance of how like the number of pips and like whites you can flip and whatnot.
So kind of to finish up on this flipping and everything here. Now Ransack does have a pretty unique ability when you flip back. It says when you flip to this mode, scrap an upgrade from this. For each battle icon on the upgrade scrap this way, your opponent chooses one of their characters and does 1 damage to it. Now, in the normal games that we play, a lot of times when you do non-attack damage, you typically get to choose who it goes on. And so every group, tribe, composition, they have their strengths and weaknesses, right? So one of the weaknesses of this group with their, so let's say you put an improvised shield on them and then you flip. Okay, you scrap that card, the other team takes 2 damage, but they get to pick. So while they have a bunch of characters on the battlefield, that's not a great ability. Mm-hmm. But if you ever get down to 1 character on the battlefield, then these guys are deadly with their non-attack damage.
For sure.
And part of that is because if you have these guys in bot mode and then you play a rollout, all of a sudden you could probably do 1 or 2 damage. Kickback doesn't do anything. Venom has the swarm. Mm-hmm. If you have an upgrade on Chop Shop, you scrap all the upgrades for each one, you draw a card, and repair 1 from your Insecticons.
Ooh, I didn't know he draws too. That's really cool.
Rollout is a strong card in this group because of that.
Did you ever get to do that play? Did you ever roll out like 2 to 4 Insecticons in one go and trigger all those flip effects?
I can't remember if I did that or not. I do remember there was a play where I had flipped Venom.
Mm-hmm.
I got my flips messed up. Basically, I used rollout before I should have, or I should have used it earlier, and I could have set up Venom to go like do that immediately the next turn or something. But
I see.
Definitely something that you kind of just keep in your mindset in the toolbox that you're ready to pop out with. I remember thinking about that more because for a while Wyatt was running some practice games with Omega Supreme, and before, like during my first set of swings, he would always combine. And I just remember thinking, he blocks for so much. If you played a swarm one turn, and let's say you got lucky and you got five oranges, and then you flip Venom and you got 2 more, you're doing 7 damage to him before you're even swinging.
That's pretty good, like sideboard option to make Supreme if you're concerned about that, or just like taller blue decks, which Bugs has had a history of struggling against. So that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. Yep, that's exactly right.
Very cool. Well, why don't we jump into the battle deck?
Sounds good. I'll start with the action cards.
All right.
We got rollouts, 3 rollouts,
Okay.
3 supercharge.
Do you want to flip them
One
around?
system.
Flip them the other way.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
Like this?
Yeah, like that. That's perfect.
3 rollouts, 3 supercharge, 1 system reboot, 2 treasure hunt, 2 reckless charge, 1 swindle, 2 take by surprise, 3 armored assault, and 1 lone hold the line.
Okay. Yeah, seems pretty standard for an orange list. How did the system reboot in the swindled feel, in terms of like keeping your hand relatively healthy throughout the game?
I don't think I had much opportunity to use either one.
Okay.
I may have used swindled maybe once or twice to fish for something. Of course, oftentimes because you're 4 wide, you may not get enough full turns in.
Yeah.
And your upgrades are actually, as far as damage wise, are more important than the actions. So if you go second and you're about to go in with kickback and ransack, you might be better off playing a swindled and trying to throw a erratic lightning and a grenade launcher on each one and going in.
Okay, that makes sense.
Especially if they have a secret, because you figure, well, that's going to really counter one of the two. So if I can even them out, they're going to take a big hit either way.
Exactly, you're making them choose.
System reboot is really good to draw when you need it, especially if your opponent has a lot of cards. I remember, I want to say it was in the final match against Mad Sleepy. I had one in my hand, and one of his weaknesses was hand disruption, because he does the combo with Gear Up.
Sure.
And I had this in my hand early, and there was a point where I had some kind of functional cards. Like one thing I had was a Take by Surprise in my hand. And I thought, I might could just system reboot and get some really good damage cards and really get this. But I actually held off because I was like, one card can really wreck you when you play orange. And he ended up playing Will of the Protocols towards late in the game at sort of an important juncture.
Sure.
And one of the cards he got was Gyro Blaster, which only allows you to flip 2 cards. I put that by itself. He drew it, he played it, and then I played a Take by Surprise.
That's really good.
So I was really glad I didn't reboot at that time.
Yeah, no kidding. You would have just let him have the Gyro Blaster on the next draw, or when he drew the other 4 with system reboot, and you wouldn't have to Take by Surprise. Very solid play. Very solid.
So we got our draw here. Our typical trying to get good cards and draw are the Swindled, Treasure Hunt, System Reboot. I would say the Bugs don't have the best draw, but I talked to Wyatt one time and he was like, the groups can't be good at everything.
That's true.
Or we'd have to ban them. Or
it's true.
Or do something. Now, a wise man, Christian Young, told me you need to have at least 8 pumps. Okay, gotta have at least 8 pumps. So I made sure I had 8 pumps. I got Armored Assault, which really complements the armors I play, Reckless Charge and Supercharge. And then some functional ones were Take by Surprise and Roll Out, Hold the Line. On these here, Armored Assault is a lot better than I thought it was, just because there's turns when you have to bash, you have to play a Scrapper Gauntlet, you have to play a Force Field, so at least you get an extra bold one out of it.
Yeah, it still turns into like a pseudo +3 action when you have to play those, because like the bold one is effectively an extra attack, right? So it's very good.
Yes. Reckless Charge, what can you say? We don't want to take the -3, but when you play Seekers, when you play Bugs, you don't care about health and you don't care about your guys KO.
Yeah.
Being KO'd. You're just going hard until the game's over.
Just want to.
And then Supercharge has new life because of in hostilities, going just to full con.
Yep, exactly. Same with Belligerence, which is why you don't see a Belligerence in his main board, which there probably would be at least 1 or 2 Belligerents in here if there was a main board, if that was legal, for sure.
Yes, I'm hoping we it's in the rearview mirror and we never look back.
I don't think anyone's ever going to miss that card, at least in T1 and Classic. It'll still see some play in full con, obviously. It's a good card.
So it was a tough decision here to play 2 or 3 Take by Surprise, because I've probably done more games and maybe more gold fishing in the time they announced Classic until the tournament. That period of time I played more games than I had ever played.
For sure.
And it seems in Classic, it feels like more so than T1, that somebody plays something, and if you can't get around it within a turn or two, the fact that you couldn't do something about it, you're going to lose the game. And so it was a really tough decision not to play 3. I almost feel like if I had to do it over again, I would just play 3. But if you're playing 40 cards, if you're doing the Daniel Arnold theory of 40 cards, don't go above, it's just you got to make some hard decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And probably the best card out of all of these turned out to be Hold the Line. I cannot tell you. I'm on the Seekers right now in the Classic Monthly, and I don't have one in my main board, which may end up being all right, but I can't imagine being an orange deck ever again and not playing that card, because really what it does is it ends up buying you one more turn.
It can.
And in some matches, that's all you need, is I just need one more swing into you, and you're 9 stars and I have 11 health, and here's a Hold the Line.
It's especially really relevant with the Insecticons now, because you have 2 characters that have above 10 health, right? Like Ransack and Venom. Like just being able to say to a 10-star character like Double Dealer, or like you were talking about, like Hound at 9 stars, any of these big hitters for like, these kind of mid-rangey star cost, like you can just set that and it's effectively like a force field, like you said, just buys you an extra turn, which, for an aggro deck, sometimes that's all you need, is just like that one more big swing with Kickback, or the one more big swing with Ransack, right?
Yes, and you're exactly right. That is essentially what it is. It's just a force field where you have to take some more damage. Absolutely.
Well, very cool. Why don't we get to the upgrades?
Sure. Some of these are sleeved and some of these are not, just because I'm going through transition with some decks.
Yeah, not a problem.
I'm Classic Monthly right now, and we're moving on to T1 and ATP 6.
Mm-hmm.
So we got, for my weapons, Grenade Launcher, Power Punch, Erratic Lightning, Scoundrel's Blaster. We got some armors here. Force Field, Improvised Shield, Scrapper, 2 Bashing Shields. We got Absorption Core. And then we have the star cards, Mounted Missiles and Bullseye Aegis.
How many Force Fields is that? Is that 2 or 3?
It's just 2.
Just 2, okay. So
another somewhat difficult decision, but just through play testing, you end up realizing even if I had 3 in my hand at some point, I don't have time to play them all.
Exactly.
If that makes sense.
That like I like to play orange decks quite a bit too, as you know, and I kind of agree with that sentiment. Like I'll sometimes have the third in the sideboard, but like oftentimes like you only really need to see one in the game, and like if you have 3, sometimes it feels like it clogs your hand or draws too much. But yeah, absolutely. So the weapons I think are the most interesting here, right? The 3 grenade, the substandard, the 3 radic lightning makes sense. Scoundrels, 3 power punch. That's a card we haven't seen in forever either. That's also been starting to come up with the end hostilities ban. Now seeing like cards like this actually have like functionality again of like, oh, this isn't just like a dead card when they have an end hostility set. How did the power punches feel specifically?
They felt really good, and so as I'm talking about these, I also try to talk more about my playtesting. I was fortunate enough because of the way that things transitioned. There seemed like there was more people available the last month or so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that had to do with the ATP 6 set winding down or not. But I got games against Mad Sleepy. I got games against Drew, Ziggy, Wyatt, Ansel. I can't remember if there's anybody else, but I got to see a lot of different team compositions.
Yeah.
I mean, you spend a couple hours with Mad Sleepy at night, he'll throw 3 or 4 decks at you if you want him to.
He sure will, man.
And so I've been thinking more and more, the games has sort of transitioned to be harder, in my opinion, to be a mono deck, meaning like basically all orange or all blue, just because there's so many excellent cards like Absorption Core or Spy Satellite Uplink. And before you know it, you start playing some cards like that. There's awesome blank cards, I Still Function, Supporting Fire. Your flips suffer. And I played a lot of Dinobots last season, and Knack was so good, I got to where I had to play 3, it felt like, because I could just pick it up whenever I wanted. And I really struggled with enjoying that deck because my flips, I remember in a tournament match, I want to say I flipped 5 or 6 cards, and all I needed was to flip between oranges and blue 2. 1 orange, 1 blue, 2 blue, 0 orange, whatever.
Yeah.
And I didn't get it, and I lost the match because I couldn't even get 2 out of like 5 or 6 cards.
So that's wild.
And I remember thinking after that, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. So if you'll notice, in this deck, my whites are Hold the Line, 2 Force Field System Reboots, and my non-orange cards are Absorption Core and Scoundrel's Blaster. So I have 34 orange cards with 40 orange battle icons in the deck. And so part of the reason that I made that decision was because this is the most flip intensive team that I have ever played. Ransack normally flips 6 cards or more. Kickback normally flips 9 or more. Venom flips 3. Chop Shop flips 3.
Yeah.
And I looked at Smurf's deck, and he had cards in there like Master of Metallicato and things like that. And he probably felt like he had to play that because he had played a lot of just the best cards. And I think that is where the new bannings have helped this out a lot. Banning Knack, banning M Hostilities, banning Belligerents is because I remember all this last season, a lot of decisions came down to, well, even though I'm an orange deck, I have to play 2 or 3 in Hostilities because it's one of the best cards in the game.
Right.
And so I was like, I need my flips to count. I played you with Shockwave when I had Wreckers. That was some classic playtesting too. And I also thought, well, if you play Shockwave and it doesn't end fast, you're not going to have but the card that you draw. And so I thought about this too. I thought, well, there might be a couple people on Shockwave. So if I don't have any cards, at least I'm getting that base 9 or more with kickback. I'm getting that basically base 10 or more with ransack. And so it was play testing that made me decide to go all out orange for these guys. And so Power Punch felt great because of that.
Sure. Yeah.
And
makes sense.
And the four whites in here, that came from playtesting too, because I had tried it with 5 or 6. And when you flip 9 with kickback, you flip he's got a Power Punch, you're flipping 12, you flipped a white, you flip 14, and then you have 2 whites and your blue in there, and you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
How much better would that have been? You know, is there a way I can sort of make that work better? And so I just skim things down as much as possible. As you can see, there's some weaknesses to this group. I don't have a spy satellite uplink. That was a big weakness.
Did the Brave and Stealth come up at all? Because I actually, in my classic testing so far, I've actually found like I haven't needed to mainboard the spy satellite as much as I have in like the T1 in full con formats. Did you go against a lot of Brave and Stealth in the one day?
There was some with that, not a lot. I would say I did it more than my opponents because Bullseye Aegis here turned out to be my best card. And I was able to put it, I believe, on Venom one time. I used it, I want to say 2 or 3 times, and my opponent didn't have an answer most of the time. They didn't have a way they could pull it off. So they had to go into him until they killed him. And basically I was trying to protect kickback and ransack by doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. The Brave is a really good card, and I think a lot of people were kind of off Spy Satellite mainboard this event as well. Like another big thing to point for this event is like the monthly is also classic, but this it's best of 3, so there's sideboards. Classic Farmer doesn't have a bot character for sideboard though, so it's just 10 battle cards. But the one day was best of 1, so you actually had the added bonus of people not being able to bring in Spy Satellite against you when you had the Bullseye Aegis, or now that they saw that, right? So that was like extra good on their part as well. Or they couldn't bring in more Bashing Shield to get rid of Force Field and stuff like that.
Yes, it was actually a very unique contest because it's basically like a tournament where there's no second chances. There's no boarding in Snapdragon so you can have the easy win against people. There's no, I'll put all these cards in my sideboard for all these different groups, you know. Like, if you're worried about people untapping, you either put 2 lose the initiatives in your main board or not.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, so it was kind of it was a different challenge than what we're used to with things.
It definitely was. I think it definitely, to me, it makes a lot of sense why a deck like Insecticons won the event, because it definitely, like, in a best of 1 format, like, it really rewards the decks that are just like the most upfront consistent in what they do without having to rely on like smoke screening into another deck in the sideboard, like transforming your deck to something else with like 10 sideboard cards, or like in the monthly, if you were to play Insecticons, I'd imagine you'd be a lot more wary of people bringing in Gyro Blasters from their sideboard into you, right? So like having a deck like this that is just so, I'm aggressive, I know what I do, I'm going to flip my cards, and I built my deck incredibly consistent, makes a lot of sense, and it's clearly rewarded you in the event, I feel like. Which, you know,
yes,
we don't always see.
Yes, it's very interesting you bring up the Gyro Blaster thing, because it's not like I didn't see it in this event. It's just bugs are going to be tough for people because you only have so many turns and you only have so many cards, right?
Right.
So if you so basically you got to, against these guys, in my opinion, you have to really play your offense and your defense at the right time. Yeah. So there was one match where I won the die roll and I went second. And the last character they had attack was Shockwave. And I had Kickback and Ransack left. And they had no Secret down and no Force Field down.
That's a bad time.
So you can...
That's a bad
You
time.
can imagine that didn't end up well for them.
I can't imagine.
So it's one of those things where you really have to see the next couple turns ahead of time against these guys, because even Gyro Blaster does a good job of limiting the flips, and Rung does a great job of limiting the flips.
Yeah.
But one of the problems, even when people play those, is the fact that this team is 4 wide.
Right.
So it's like you can only fend that off for so long before you're going to take a hit. So yeah, it's good to play the Gyro Blaster, but then it's like you need to think it's time to make this count. It's time for me to get my damage in on him and start taking some bugs out.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, like the Rung especially. Like I know I saw you play against Rung in the final match on stream, and just it obviously Rung stopping even like kickback and only being able to flip 2 cards is like really detrimental to your strategy. But if you have a grenade launcher and an armored assault in hand or a reckless charge, you just play those 2. You're still like 10, 11 base attack, and you just swing. You still get like 2 oranges, and that could probably kill Rung. Especially if they have to send it out earlier. You have a game plan against that.
Yeah, and they have to be careful too when they use that, because if you're playing heavy blue and you can get a lot on your flips, well, you play that. You flip a white and a blue. I flipped 2 oranges, then 1 orange. All of a sudden, my flips were better. Like you said, I had a grenade launcher. And all of a sudden, you're scratching your head thinking, wow, I played Gyro and I still took 9.
Still took 9. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just,
especially like with Ransack.
Yeah.
And so another, okay, well, just to finish up on the sort of the armors here, you play your 3 improvised shields for the doubles, scrappers to get rid of a weapon. The draw card's really nice on there, actually.
It is.
And then another reason to only play 2 force fields is you don't really get to decide when you play the bash. If they play something you have to get rid of, you play the bash that turn.
Sure.
So if you have a bunch of armors in your hand, it doesn't matter. The bash has a priority. Yeah. And so I thought Absorption Core would be important because I didn't want to have like 1 or 2 health left and then just out of combat get the guy. And also, they get KO'd. That ping's pretty good.
It's not bad. They can help. They can definitely help.
And let me talk about the star cards, if that's all right.
Yes, please do. I was actually going to ask you a question about it, but if you're going to talk about them, that saves me the breath, right?
Well, if I don't answer, you just let me know.
I'll let you know.
So these star cards were very interesting. The progression, I tried to play even the scores. I tried to play nothing to lose. I tried to play spotlights. I tried a lot of different star cards, and these just seem to be the best. I even tried to play full loadout, which it wasn't the best, really.
Yeah,
it's really situational. If you're drawing a ton of upgrades, that's fine, but I don't really have good draw here to begin with.
Yeah.
So this is where some of that versatility comes in of the bugs with having to deal with Rung and Gyro Blaster. So the mounted missiles, it's +2, it's a double orange, and it can go in an armor or utility slot.
Is it an armor already too? It's already an armor, right?
It's a weapon.
It's okay. It is a weapon. I couldn't remember if it was a weapon or an armor. Like that.
Yeah,
that was
upgrade weapon. This can be an armor or utility slot.
Okay.
In an armor or utility slot. So it's like, okay, you got a gyro on the guy I want to get, or rungs in play. Well, you know what? I'll just put erratic lightning and a mounted missiles on 2 different turns on Ransack, and so my base is 10. I only get 2 flips, so you could very well just have to take 10.
Yeah.
There.
10 still 10. 10 still 10.
And so when you play, one of the ways that I make decks now is because I basically only play orange and I've had some months of experience, is I have all of my battle cards cataloged in the 9 the 9-section sleeves that you can get and put in binders.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will scroll through there and look at and read every orange card as I'm building a deck. And then any card I think might be useful, I just pull it out and sleeve it.
Sure.
And then, so these ended up the best in testing. Now, Bullseye Aegis might as well be renamed Death Sentence when it comes to putting them on buttons.
Death Sentence.
But it does give
That's
you Bold 1. It does give you an extra defense.
Mm-hmm.
But the Brave is what's nice. You know, it reminds me of the Seekers. It's like, well, I got 3 health left. I'm either going to make you not play a weapon this turn to bash this.
Yeah.
So you do less damage, or I'm going to make you come into me for 3.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't attack my Ransack or my Kickback this turn. Sorry.
Right.
Right.
Correct. And it's also interesting in my play testing, you know, I've had Wyatt share a lot of thoughts about the game with me, about how things are set up and everything. And I remember you mentioning, I was even asking you about my star cards, and you said, you know, a couple bolts of lightning might not be a bad idea, because you might get one and pick a guy off, and then so Ransack doesn't have to go into somebody and do 15 damage to only get the 3.
Right.
But for this specific tournament, I decided I have very limited attack damage or non-attack damage, and I'm okay with that. Yeah. What I'm going to do to compensate for that is I'm going to make my flips so good and so reliable that basically any character that they give me, I'm going to try to make it to where I can get KO them in 2 hits. That was my whole goal with this build and with this set of characters, was like, just so basically, unless I just wanted to do a ton of damage in one of their big characters with Ransack at the end of the first set of turns, it was basically like, I'm going to attack a character, attack whoever I have to, finish off another character, finish off another character. So you might take 1 or 2 away from me at best, but you're probably only going to have 1 left, or if you have 2 characters left, you are really worried about your big guy getting KO'd with 1 more hit.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah.
So I didn't even sweat the fact if they lived on 2 or whatever. I was like, that's all part of the plan.
It's all part of that
so
plan.
Instead, on those turns, it gave me a turn to where I was like, okay, I'll put a weapon on the next guy, or I'll put an amount of missiles on the next guy, because I know I got him with Venom.
Right.
Or, oh, this is a great turn to play an armor or a utility or draw some cards. So it kind of like, it even gave me a chance to breathe in between my big attacks.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, awesome, dude. Yeah, well, congratulations again for winning the event. You know, I really enjoyed having you talk through like all your, especially like the deck building aspect and like all the things all the variations you went through in playtesting. That's something you don't always get to see from like a Teletran page, right? Like I could just always like link to you know your list on Teletran and what you wanted, but like getting the chance to actually sit down and talk with you on the different variations, why you chose these star cards, why, you know, how you approach the different format for the one day, I thought was really awesome. Thank you again for that. I don't think I have any more questions for you. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we close off on this awesome deck profile, Jason?
Sure. I just wanted to say, you notice I've played with 10 weapons. And these sort of count as weapons too. Yeah. It was even a hard decision to play Scoundrel's Blaster. That is how mono orange I wanted this to be, but I just, you know, it's like some of those are just indispensable. I just wanted to give a special thanks to Smurf for getting me started on this, for giving me a primer deck and helping me set up with the characters. I want to thank all the guys in the ATP Discord for helping me get in so many games. It looks like this might be the 2nd month in a row where I'm over 50 games. That's pretty good. That's not even counting gold fishing. That's very good. The ATP design team, I just really, these guys were really fun to play.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they have way less ATP cards, you know, stratagems and whatnot than the Dinobots.
Mm-hmm.
But I just found these guys, even though don't get me wrong, I like the Dinobots and I'll be playing them again. But these guys were just super fun to play. It was very unique. The swarm, non-attack damage. There's a lot that you can use rollout for. It was just Ransack and Venom really brought this team together, and it was just so fun. It was just a blast to play Insecticons.
Awesome. I'm really happy to hear that, especially like that deck has been like people will like talk about like the very beginnings of the game and like talk about like Bugs was a menace of a deck. Like people ran Bugs, people could not beat Bugs. Deck Bugs was like incredible. And you know, the more people played, the more people like figured out like the weaknesses. But it was still like a great deck all the way up to like wave 3, and then it completely fell off in wave 4. And then like, you know, ATP has brought in like some support with it, especially like on Junkion's side, and with like the Ransack. You know, it saw a little bit of play, but like I'm really happy to see it. Like I'm really happy to see it win a tournament, right? And like seeing it, like even though like it's got like the archetype, like the tribe has a bad rep to it and like the greater community, but it's still like it's a fun deck to play. You're flipping like 12, 15 cards. What's not fun about that? That's what the game's all about, right? So really happy to see you win this.
It's been a blast because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Flipping cards is fun.
Flipping cards is fun. I think on that note, I just want to thank you again for your time, Jason. I'm going to sign off here. Thank you all so much for watching. Keep on the lookout for more videos covering ATP6, more tournament reports. I got a match actually that I'm going to play here in a few minutes. I'll be recording, putting up on the channel here in a little bit after this is. But thank you again, Jason. Congrats on the win, and hope you all have a great day, all right? Take care.
Thank you.